right, everyone, we're going to get started this morning. Like a Swiss train, I like to keep things on time. My name is Katie Crocker. I am the co-chair of Pathways to Prosperity. It is so good to see you all this morning. I hope you had a great evening last night, enjoyed some posters, maybe explored Vancouver a little bit. But it's great to see you back here this morning. So this morning we are going to be starting with a consolidated report back from the interactive activity we did yesterday. I know the BA to CH room, we had a really great opportunity to connect and talk and lots of energy in the room, and I've heard the same has happened in other rooms as well. And so I'm really excited to welcome Tina Strelka. Tina, I had it perfectly and then I went and messed it up. Strelka, Tina Strelka. Right? There we go. Okay. From Minerva, BC, who is going to give a consolidated report back on the activity from yesterday. She is going to be presenting a deck in English only, so we will have that translated into French and available on the website shortly. So please join me in welcoming Tina. Thank you.
Oh, there's the deck. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tina Strelka. I'm so delighted to be here with all of you, and thank you so much for welcoming me to the Pathways to Prosperity Conference to both help design the activity that you did yesterday and also to report back some of the findings. Let's see. So just a little bit about me and who I am. I like to start a presentation with a bit of context of like, who's this person up here talking to you and why is she here? So I come to this work through sort of a different pathway. My parents are immigrants, so that's Burke and Claudia up there in their sunglasses. They're in their 80s now. My mom immigrated to Canada when she was 11. She came in 1953 after the war. With her family, and my dad immigrated as a young man, and he did his PhD in chemistry at the U of A. So I'm a daughter. I grew up on Treaty 8 territories in northern Alberta. I reside today on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh. And so the photo of the land there, that pathway, is a beautiful lake in Burnaby, Burnaby Lake, where I spend a lot of time with my dog. I have sisters, so I have been surrounded by strong women my whole life, and I have two beautiful daughters, Inez and Mia. This is a very old picture of them. They're now 14 and 16, so they're in those teenage years. They don't look as cute as they did back then, but they are still very lovely girls. So for myself, I work for an organization called Minerva, BC. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But I did spend 15 years in the community-based career development sector here in British Columbia and spent a lot of time, not necessarily directly in settlement, but certainly working around labor market issues and employment and supporting individuals to find their path in careers. And that's been a big part of my career. You know, and the themes of my career happen to be around education and supporting people and success and career development. And so I was invited to come here today through partnership and collaboration. So Minerva is a Vancouver-based charity. We work with girls and women. We're advancing economic and leadership opportunities. We've been around for about 25 years. And over the last several years, Minerva has really worked hard. I've worked really hard to form partnerships and relationships with different organizations, and certainly with organizations working with immigrants, newcomers, and refugees. The reason that I'm here at the conference today is because a friend, Amy Robichaud, who leads Mothers Matter Canada, suggested our organization as the one to maybe help design the activity, the interactive activity, because what we do is learning and development and leadership programs. We also have collaborated with Diversity. I see my friend Neelam here, her amazing team, to build out an International Women's Day event that now brings over 300 women together from all different communities. This year we also partnered with Mosaic. Minerva hosts an inclusive leadership forum every year. We do some research. We did a research project last year, but didn't have a lot of data around sort of intersectional perspectives on leadership and women in leadership. But Mosaic had some phenomenal research about accelerating immigrant careers. And so we were able to partner with them to bring their content into an event we were hosting for 200 business leaders. So I think I was invited here because I have some relationship and some connection, and we have some expertise, but also sort of a model of partnership and collaboration, which is a big theme of the conference today. So carrying on, yesterday you had the opportunity to engage in an interactive activity. I know it was hosted in English and in French. It was also hosted online, so some of my team members were hosting and facilitating individuals in conversation online. So thank you to all of you who came out to play and have that conversation. That interactive activity came from feedback of attendees who said, we love hearing what we hear, we love getting the expertise, we love the new information, and we want time to connect, and we want time to discuss, and we want time to sort of grapple with some of the issues one-on-one. And so the activity yesterday really, first and foremost, was about connection, about sharing, about relationship, and to dig a little deeper on our own expertise and experience around partnerships and collaboration and how we can do more together. So I'm going to summarize what I heard. I went home last night and had many pieces of paper. Thank you to all of you with excellent penmanship and neat printing. I tried my hardest to capture as many sort of sentiments and ideas, what I thought was interesting. And all I'm going to do is sort of reflect back to what you talked about, what was heard, what was seen, what was discussed, and where the flashpoints or the interest points were. So the very first question was around inspiration. Why collaborate? Why partnership? What gets us excited about this opportunity to work together? Very much so, a lot of the responses came back to the unique perspectives that we all hold, the diversity of mindsets, while also having like-minded people to work together with who care about making an impact, wanting to have greater success, do more with less, and creating bridges between different groups and organizations and aspects of our society. There was definitely a sentiment around lightening the load and sharing sort of the importance and the expertise that you all hold, leveraging capacity, looking for places where maybe someone's doing something better than we are. How can we do that together and share our strengths? Also learning about community members. There was really a recognition about being excitement of how do we learn more about the other people doing good work in our community, how people are being served in our community, the innovations that are happening. There was also conversation, of course, about funding, about relationships and learning. There was recognition that together there can be greater advocacy, stronger voice, which was definitely an exciting sort of piece that came up in a lot of the forums. Being able to build on each other's strengths, so that's the yoga people there that I reflected back. Reducing the duplication, so not all of us doing the same things all the time, being able to be more efficient in our work. And then, of course, innovation, creating networks, and really having connection points where we can draw on those strengths and draw on that expertise and not work so hard in silos and alone. So those were the elements of inspiration. Does that sort of resonate with the conversations that you had? Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun to read that. And I did pull out a couple of the pages that really articulated it really nicely. So this one I thought was so beautiful the way they framed it, or the group framed it. Collaboration is breathing together with guided purpose, an opportunity to have additional support and perspectives, and learning about community members. This one said, when you find the right partner for a project, you get really excited. So much possibility. Looking forward to great outcomes. So inspiration. Felt like there was a lot of inspiration and excitement about this topic. Then we moved into what value do we bring. So really important for us to recognize in partnerships that we all bring values, that we bring strengths, that we have things to offer that is unique and that is valued, and figuring out who values what we do, who cares about what we do, and how can we offer it. So when we look at sort of this values conversation, definitely expertise, right? Lots of expertise in this room, both from having knowledge and practice and experience and years of work, also lived experience, and a welcoming mindset and a welcoming attitude, and a real desire and a passion to make a difference in this space, a real belief in the work that's being done. There was also a recognition that there's a huge impact on the labor market, on the economy, and helping match talent to employers. That's a really significant part of the work that people noted. Creativity, as well as energy and enthusiasm, and a really strong connection to youth. So that next generation, the next folks that are coming into our communities and our labor markets to lead the work. There was also a lot of comments and recognition of the deep care and empathy that is a strength of this sector and a value that we bring. The planning, the ability to kind of walk a winding path and navigate complexity, that came up a lot. I mean, we certainly know in this sector that the resilience and the ability to keep going on a journey is a strength that we hold. Even if it doesn't always feel that that's a strength we'd like to have, it is a strength that we hold. Being able to have a strong community of a lot of players, the network of, if you look across this room, the network of service providers and the network of programs and services that exist is a real strength for this sector. Having data and information and connection to the communities that we serve, connection to the people, connection to the immigrant, having that on the ground knowledge is a real strength. So that sort of reflects back that area, and I'll just share a couple more here of like actual words that were written. So the value we bring to external partners and collaborators is that we bring a unique perspective, especially when considering the diversity of experience in this sector. We bridge sectors, we bridge clients in various sectors because settlement touches on all dimensions: health, education, employment, etc. And our partnerships, we can help with navigating complex and intersecting services because we do it all the time. Also, a deep knowledge of subject matter expert and newcomer needs and experiences, a unique capacity to bring together multi-sectoral partners, access to data, statistics, capacity to explain complex immigration policy changes, immigration trends, and real-time information from the ground. This has impact on policies and communities and is valuable. So lots of value, lots of strengths, lots to offer in a partnership when you think both internally within our sector, but also externally and thinking about who else could look to us for what we hold and what we bring and what we offer. So let's go to challenges. I thought the challenges would be like both pages back and forth because we know that there's many, many barriers to being able to collaborate. I work in nonprofit, I see and feel them too. But the challenges were actually really thoughtful and articulate and pretty consistent about what everyone sees as the road ahead. One of the biggest comments was around competition for funding, a competitive sort of landscape that we're working in, and scarcity of resources, scarcity of time, also a scarcity mindset that there isn't enough, that we aren't going to have enough, that we do need to be competitive. So it's two things, because that is real, that the resources are limited and they're decreasing at the moment. And also when we have the mindset of scarcity, it doesn't allow us to step into possibility and abundance and opportunity. And so there's a play there that we need to work on. Burnout was definitely mentioned, the lack of, or the uncertainty with the contracting model, staff leaving, challenges with labor market, having a good talent, all those kind of things, and doing too much, doing more than we can with not enough resources. So that was a strong theme as well. A recognition that it's hard to change systems, whether that's internally within our own organizations, changing habits and patterns and programs and the way we've always done it, as well as the larger systems that we're intertwined with. And then there was a lot of reference to urban and rural and the differences and some of the challenges that may be unique to one type of community over another. Additional challenges was investment, and this was definitely money, but it was also things like time and space and capacity, the references were not just senior leadership and government must and contractors and funders must. It was also like frontline staff. We need to invest in frontline staff to be able to have these conversations and look for opportunities. So just a recognition that if we want partnership to happen, we need to invest in it. There's learning that needs to happen. A lot of folks talked about gaps in knowledge, skill, writing agreements. How do we find partners? How do we network? How do we set it up? How do we set boundaries? How do we be clear? So even just learning the practice of how do we form a good partnership, especially if it's external to our sector. With the puzzle piece, continue to have sort of just limitations in making the connection points and and how hard it can be when we're so busy in our day-to-day just trying to deliver on the deliverables to do extra and to find space to fill those gaps. It's also hard to move fast. Sometimes the speed of the problems and the speed that things are changing, and we can't always mobilize to the degree because we may not have those resources and time and investment and capacity and knowledge. And then finally, just a recognition that the complexity of the problems that we're involved with, as mentioned before, what we're touching is intertwined with so many systems, and there was a lot of mention about complexity of governments and regulations and bureaucracy and challenges and trying to sort of work within a system where all these intersecting sort of pieces or sort of parts of the chain are woven into a tight knot, and we just keep trying to pick it apart, and it feels sometimes like it's not making progress, and a real challenge is just seeing like how do we keep working on that knot to loosen it. So in terms of challenges, I'll read a few more. Time and money, lack of dedicated staff hours. People can have good ideas, but putting them into practice and revisiting them, the follow-through on the ideas is hard. Targets, chasing the same funding source and the competition we have between organizations. Additionally, scarcity of resources, fear of sharing, conflict of interest, lack of trust among agencies in the sector, and funder requirements versus organizational capacity and needs. There was also a comment that someone made about, what is real, how are we really tackling something that is true to us versus something that the funder needs and wants, and is it performative or is it actually true change? So there was sort of a recognition of the complexity of the relationships and the funding and the people involved in the work. And then finally, what do we need? Again, the list of needs was super thoughtful, and it really corresponded to a lot of what was said around the inspiration and the challenges and where we're at. Trust. So trust came up in a lot of different of the summaries and the papers. Trust around, between agencies, between organizations, between us and the funders, between us and the community, between us and our clients, and really figuring out how do we build that trust as a foundation of partnership. There was a recognition that there are missing pieces, and we're trying to put pieces together that sometimes don't fit, or we don't know how to make them fit, so that puzzle metaphor. Again, funding and resources and committed time, a real recognition that to invest in this work, it does need to be valued and seen as an outcome, as something that is valuable to the sector, as something worth investing in and of itself to achieve the outcomes we're trying to achieve. And then there were comments also around how do you incentivize this, right? How do we create the time and space and make it valuable and worthwhile and not just an off the side of the desk project that we're trying to do? There's a need for data and information and sharing that and having easy access to that. There's a need for time to build those relationships and create those community connections at all levels. There needs to be planning, and there needs to be ability to create a strategy and sort of think it through the ways that we want to approach collaboration and partnership. There needs to be government involvement. Municipal government was mentioned a lot, but all levels of government, and the interplay between the two of when you're trying to scale or grow or do something that's working in one area with another, how do you kind of eliminate some of the challenges and the bureaucracy that exists? We need flexibility to try new things. So those rubber bands, we need some leeway, we need some play space, we need to be able to try things and fail and try again. Being able to grow, seed, plant ideas, sharing. So the women at the conference here, just exactly what we're doing here, sharing knowledge, sharing what works, not being proprietary about knowledge, but trying to build on each other and trying to work within our strength zones and then potentially find others who have other strengths and collaborate together so that we can really build that network of strengths and support where we're all contributing to where we can the best. So again, a few of the comments. We need dedicated time for collaboration and relationship building. We need to support the narrative that encourages collaboration. We need improved funding for staff retention. And we need to understand good intention attitudes of larger versus smaller providers and what's suitable for each. We need appropriate incentives. We need trust. We need municipal government involvement. We need to convene on a regular basis to be on the same page and contribute to planning. We need to follow up and monitor the results of our goals and our plans and update as appropriate. And we need good data collection to have the full picture. So as I sort of wrap up, I hope this sort of gives you a flavor. I mean, if you were in the conversations, I hope it reflects the flavor of the conversation you were in and sort of takes a piece of what was discussed. I think as we're going forward and we take this theme and this idea, I want to leave you with 3 questions of sort of how you can go about your work, how you can kind of continue to keep this narrative alive in your own mind and with your teams and your organizations. So the first question is, who else cares about what we care about? When we're thinking about partnerships and we're thinking about things external, who else is in the zone that may not be in this room already, right? So who else cares about community, about connection, about the labor market, about healthy societies, about ensuring that immigrants and newcomers and refugees find their place in Canada? Who cares about those things? And how can you sort of build relationship there, share information, start to build? That's how Neelam and I from Diversity got connected, because she cares a lot about women and women in leadership. And so she reached out to me and said, what's the possibility? What can we do here? So who else cares? Why do they care? And how can you sort of start to just share information and look for ways to amplify and support each other's work, even if there's not a natural, immediate place where you can partner together, help each other, amplify each other, talk about each other. What can we contribute? As you're going forward and thinking of organizations, there's going to be immense pressure. I feel it every day as a nonprofit leader to do more, to take on new competencies, to add to the mix, to make the pie bigger in my own organization, to try and build up those resources or the funding or to create that stabilization. And yet all of us in this room can also probably look and think, is that the right strategy, or is a better strategy really just to hone in on the things we do really, really well? As we are solving these complex problems, and all the easy problems have been solved, as we're solving the complex problems that we need to solve, we do need to look for people who have strengths in areas and look for, how do I not try to reinvent that wheel? How do I leverage? How do I use what they're doing? And how do I add my own value by doing something else that I do well? So really thinking about, where can we best contribute? What's the best thing for us to be doing? And where can we add value to others? Maybe a path forward, rather than trying to sort of add more, bring more in-house, take on more competencies. And then finally, what can we solve together? In thinking about partnership, there's always opportunities where there's a little bit of a give and a little bit of take, and both people benefit. And the third part is when we think about how our communities benefit, how our clients benefit, how society benefits. So when you can think about that triple win of what could we do more together that we couldn't do alone? That's when you sort of are really kind of getting into the zone of partnership that is exciting and motivating and fundable, because likely it's solving more challenges and bigger challenges. So just encouraging you not just to think about, how do I get my needs met and another organization's needs met, but how could we come together and do something that we thought wouldn't be possible on our own? And that is sort of the exciting and creative parts that we can start to think about for future partnerships and collaboration. That's all that I have for you today. Yeah.
Thanks, Tina. Great. Thank you so much, Tina. What a really interesting activity this was. I think one of the things that I get the most kind of stressed out about when we do these interactive activities is when they're report back, right? When you sit in a room and everybody reads everything that's off of their little notepad. But what a really great way to do a consolidated report back. And I love the questions that you left us with. I think those are going to resonate with a lot of people in this room. So thank you. Thank you so much.